Hi everyone, I'm Gloria.
And hi, I'm Lillian, and we are here today with Miss Hamilton.
Hi, I'm Miss Hamilton. I'm the mental health practitioner here at Valley High School.
So we have a few questions for Miss Hamilton that she's going to answer about mental health in school. So what are some common mental health challenges that students usually face in school?
Yeah, those are great questions. So, the top two mental health issues are anxiety and depression. Anxiety can be like tension and worry, intrusive thoughts, and panic. And some symptoms of depression are feelings of sadness, powerlessness, some like pessimism, meaning like glass is half full kind of thing, and loss of joy. So things that once brought you joy don't typically do that anymore. Um, so those are the two ones that I see most of the time with students here at Valley.
What inspired you to be a mental health counselor?
I think I think that's a two-part answer for me. My undergraduate degree was in Spanish, actually, and I saw through my studies that there was a whole community that needed help with um, navigating school. That people that were like ESL students, right? So or ML students, as they're said now. Um, and so I wanted to help Spanish speaking students in school, but I didn't really know how. So then I started down the mental health road and then realized that that would be the best way not to just help like the Latinx community, but also all the teenagers that I come into contact with. So I started off in elementary school. So when I started this, and then I went to high school, and I was like, oh my gosh, high school is my jam here.
How was it working with like younger kids? Because you know how mental health is a lot different when you're younger, like elementary and high school. So how was it working with those younger kids?
Yeah, it was so fun. Like I played a lot of games, and I think that's the way like little kids learn. Um, and it was fun, and they're so sweet, and they just want hugs all the time, and they're so much fun. But I dealt with more parents than I did with kids. Trying to figure out the best way to help with like any behavior or emotional issues. So, but with high school students, I can be more transparent and upfront with you all, and you all have that brain development that you all can kind of say what's on your mind, right? And make different choices. So,
So
very different.
how did you bring fun into high schoolers since you did that with like younger kids?
Yeah, so I think that's important for high schoolers to have fun too. Um, so I try and incorporate if you go to my room, I have a ton of fidgets. I have coloring books. I have like a little corner where it's kind of like a calm corner because sometimes you just need a minute to like gain your composure. But I try and like incorporate different um, fun questions or different games. Gosh, we do icebreakers in my groups. And I think just trying to keep it light and building that relationship really helps with like opening up for kids, for teenagers. So
You mentioned how anxiety and depression is like a really big issue. If kids are like too scared to say anything, do you have a way of identifying how they have it?
yeah, I think that's really one of those village mentalities. So when I say villages, like everybody is included in this, like teachers, staff, parents, grandparents, whoever the student lives with. But if we're noticing drastic changes, like the student won't get out of bed, lots of absences, their grades that they've been doing their work all semester, and then all of a sudden the last couple weeks they can't even keep their eyes open in class. So those things that, as long as we're all kind of keeping in communication and we're saying like, hey, there's a big change here, right? I think we can try and nip it in the bud sooner. But I think it just takes building those relationships and noticing that, hey, this kid might be having some issues. So
How do you get those kids to open up to you? Because it's a lot harder whenever you're facing with stuff and then bringing other people into it. And so for them to ask help and kind of get their shells off, how do you get them to open up to you?
Yeah, relationships, like 100% building relationships, and building trust because you all are teenagers. So I try and as long as someone's not hurting you, you don't want to hurt somebody else, or you don't want to hurt yourself. Then we can pretty much have an open dialogue about anything you want to. And I think building that trust and showing like I'm not going to go around telling everybody or like calling your parents and all that stuff, unless one of those things were to happen. I think that really is that builds that relationship. So so yeah, that's a great question. Sometimes it's quicker for others, for some than others. And that just takes patience on my end, And sometimes bringing a friend in helps as well, especially if someone that knows me as well. So,
Do you have a say in how social media plays a role in students' mental health?
Well, I think the research on that is a little is new, just because everybody has a phone now versus back in the day, especially when I was younger, nobody had them. So I think I think moderation, meaning like a little bit at a time, is just kind of lost on people. So I think it becomes into this overindulgence or like reliance on social media, and when we see it in classes, I know you all see it, people that just cannot peel away from their phone, and that just becomes an unhealthy obsession. And I think it really, I don't know, the statistics say that if you wake up and look at social media, you're on average 10% less happy throughout the day. So just not opening your phone and getting on social media when you wake up, it's just one way that you can be happier throughout the day.
So mental health, especially in schools, is like a really big issue. So how can students balance their schoolwork, and like help their own mental health at the same time?
Yeah. Well, that's the question of the century right there. I think, I don't know if you can do math or you can write a paper or you can participate in extracurricular activities when you have mental health issues, especially if they're nearing on the severe or chronic mental health. So I think focusing on how to get through your figuring out how you can balance your workload versus putting all that stress on your shoulders. So I'm sorry.
I want to say something because I disagree.
Okay. No, that's okay. Yeah, please.
She said she don't think that people can do extracurriculars and have mental health issues.
Well, I think just as a whole, like I think it's more difficult.
Easier for them to balance it than somebody who doesn't. Is what you're trying to say?
Yeah, I think like if you're suffering from depression, like or anxiety actually, and you're not addressing it, I think extracurricular activities is a really good way to have coping skills and a coping mechanism. But if that's something where you can't get out of bed or you can't come to school or you having sleep issues or you're just tense all the time, you're sensitive to criticism, it can make things that once brought you joy harder to enjoy. And so I guess that's what I mean. But I think it's healthy to absolutely have an outlet or something that you look forward to that like brings you excitement and joy. And sometimes it is those extracurriculars. So I thank you for pointing that out. But I definitely feel that it's hard to get anything done when you're depressed.
Yeah, it's definitely a two-way thing because a lot of kids they see it as like a distraction, and then some kids they just stop doing it because, like you said, they just lose all motivation for anything
Yeah.
that made them happy.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
so what are ways to improve your mental health if you are going through that, or even just someone in
Yeah.
general? Because I feel like everybody has mental health, not issues, but things that they can better themselves, or like not everyone deals with depression, but they all go through like emotions like sadness and anger and stuff. So
Yeah, and it's okay to like feel your feelings, and I think it's important to recognize your feelings and not try and push it away because sometimes that can make anxiety a lot worse. But one of my favorite things and one of my favorite coping skills, and I found that with a lot of my students, is doing the 5 4 3 2 1. It's a grounding technique, and it's cool because you can do it anywhere, and it doesn't. No one knows you're doing it, right? So it helps you, like when I say grounding, meaning like you're not living in the future and you're not living in the past,
you're still
right?
living in the present.
Being present, because I look at it, it's like a gift, right? It's a present is a gift, right?
Yeah,
So
you
like
better like that too.
right, so like let's be here, right? We cannot change what happened in the past, and nobody can tell the future, right? But if we're here and we're experiencing what we have right now, I think it'll be a lot easier to make it through. And sometimes you have to take it minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day. But the 5 4 3 2 1 is just close your eyes or keep them open. I'd probably keep them open for the 5 things you see. But just looking around the room, 5 things you see. Then you do 4 things you hear, 3 things you can feel, like shirt on your skin, or maybe how your shoes are touching your feet, or something like that. 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And doing that over and over again to where you're not living in the future or not living in the past, and kind of be like bring yourself back to where you are now. I think that that really helps, and I think that is a really good coping skill. So
What advice would you give to kids that have like lost motivation in basically everything?
yeah, I think just like be nice to yourself. Like we're all just trying to survive and live in this world, and we're like our own worst enemies sometimes, and we just like beat ourselves up. I know I've recently started doing this activity when I get up in the morning. I look at myself in the mirror and I tell myself I love myself. I'm like, I love you. And the first couple of times I did that, it was so awkward that I just started laughing. And I was by myself, right? But like, why should I feel so bad, like, or weird telling myself that I love myself, right? It's because I constantly beat myself up, right? What could I do better? Why did I do that, right? So I think just, I don't know, being nice to ourselves. And hopefully that kind of transmits into just having a nicer and kinder society. So, I don't know. Being nice to yourself. That's my biggest.
This kind of goes on to my next questions of what you were talking about. It says, how can someone learn to work with themselves and accept themselves through their mental health?
Yeah.
Because I feel like one thing people can't do is like love themselves whenever they're in that deep because they feel gross or they're not, But yeah, how does one love themselves?
Yeah, I think that's going to take one, talking about it. I think verbalizing your issues is really important. And if you can't talk about it, write about it. Most people that do some sort of journaling or go to a therapist, they can almost track their growth. And even something that they felt last week, they look back and be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I felt that way. I survived that. Or I look how I overcame that. So I think it's just those daily practices. Even doing like the telling yourself you love yourself in the mirror, those kind of little just really confidence building exercises can really help. And, again, just being nice to yourself. I mean, we live in a tough world, especially mental health wise. So I think it will be amazing if we could just give ourselves some grace.
What's your advice for somebody who wants to enter in the mental health world in the future? What can you do?
Yeah. So Louisville has a ton of programs for social work. You can be a practicing social worker, meaning like you can have your own practice and everything like that. I went the route of school counseling, so I only work in schools. So you can go through the education route that way. But like I said, my undergrad was in Spanish, so it really kind of opened my eyes to a bunch of different just avenues that you can take, and I think though it's limitless, really. But mainly, you have to get that master's degree, whether it's in like school counseling or whether it's in if you're going to be a therapist. So, but yeah, it takes some work, but it's so rewarding and it's so worth it. And just seeing kids graduate and overcome so much stuff, because you all have overcome so much stuff. It really is like one of the most rewarding things I've done in my life. So, and I'm a mom, so that's a work in progress.
Is there a common misconception that adults or just people in general have about mental health?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's even a cultural aspect to it as well. You know, I've kind of heard those phrases like boys shouldn't cry, or girls have to be kind of permissive and just kind of like whatever you want, kind of, I don't know. So I think it's like,
I went through worse, so why does it matter?
yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. That's a great point, right? Like putting
Comparing
in
trauma, basically.
yes. It's you can trauma bond and then you can like trauma compare, right? And I think that's important as a therapist or somebody that's working with students, is that we really don't want to we have to take ourselves out of it, and just be like those active listeners, right? It's sometimes in my position, I just want to like give you all a hug and tell you it's going to be okay and take a magic wand and make all those bad feelings go away. But the other side of it, like feeling those feelings it is an opportunity to learn.
It's universal too.
It is universal. And so trying to educate people, going back to your question, just trying to educate people on therapy, and it's not weakness, right?
People always think it's a bad thing to go to therapy because it's like some people have like not even just traumatic like experiences with it, but it's good to let things out, especially if you're somebody who's professional in that field. So go to therapy.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think it's so important to talk, and I always feel like it's kind of like a balloon. If a balloon is you, right? And you keep blowing air into it. Like pretty soon what's going to happen to the balloon? It's going to pop, right? And that's just like you as well. If you stuff all your feelings down and all your trauma and everything, and you do not have an outlet, you will explode. So it's important to let some of the air out a little bit at a time. And that's therapy, and that's doing these grounding exercises. And that is talking to somebody about what's going on in your life. So,
for the last question, do you have any wise words you want to give anyone struggling with mental health?
I would say, kind of like going back to what we just talked about, is find that person, that trusted person. It doesn't have to be a therapist. It could be a teacher. It could be a lunch lady. It could be a bus driver. But talk to somebody. Because I think you will find out that you are not alone in how you feel. And feelings are just that. They're fleeting, and it doesn't define you. So if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling depressed, know that it's just for right now, and it's not forever. And honestly, you all have not even started living your lives yet. So just wait till you get out of high school. There's so many awesome opportunities and things that you all can do with your lives. So I know it feels heavy right now, but I promise you it gets better if you just allow it. So.
And that is all. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk to you about mental health and stuff.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. These are amazing topics to talk about.
Yes, thank you.